season, we've been discussing building a game plan that is suited to the talent you have, not the talent you want to have. And Penn State football hasn't really been doing that as much this year as you would expect, so we are not going to learn. We are going to learn from the mistakes of the people around us, and we're going to do that today. This is the Penn State Football Tailgate Show, so we are going to be talking about Indiana and Penn State coming up at noon today on the Penn State Sports Network, but we're going to be talking more about, at least trying to talk about, what fans really want to know. The coaching search is in the middle of the thick of it. Any name you hear absolutely is a part of the coaching search. Any opportunity that you think is a done deal isn't yet. We don't know who the next head coach is going to be. We know the general parameters, and we've been talking about it on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel for a month now. But we're going to try and talk about, like, what happened this year?
Yeah.
Why? Why is this happening?
What did happen, T. Frank?
Well, we'll get into that today on the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. If you're listening on 99.5 The Bus, you know that voice. That's Kyle Leff. He is the sports director, executive producer, and king of Seven Mountain Sports. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir. We are, of course, here live outside the BJC and outside of Beaver Stadium on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel, powered on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And T. Frank, we got here bright and early this morning. I got here about 7:30, 7:35 today. It was nice. It was cool. It was okay. The problem was, no one else was here. And no one else still is here. No one's here at all.
Yeah.
It's a very, very just like lackluster, I guess, environment is the best way to put it. That feels like a pretty, pretty good.
So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, I'm giving you the crowd shot. And this is pretty indicative of what it's been like all day. If you want to check out my social media, I had a drive-in video, and it looked like a Saturday in State College when I'm just going to Home Depot. Yeah. Sometime in like March when there isn't any football going on. And that is really, I think, descriptive of how fans feel about this season. Now, fans are filing in. We are going to see fans in the stands today. It's not going to be a complete empty bowl. But I do find it interesting, Kyle. You have a helmet stripe game today, I think?
Helmet stripe game, I believe, is what's going on today.
It is gonna look a little funky when there are not people filling out the sections to make the actual visual impact.
There's going to be a stripe, it's just going to be empty seats.
Right. Yeah.
It is. I've been fortunate enough, as have you, to be at the stadium for quite a few games now.
Yeah.
I have never seen this quiet of a crowd outside of like Thanksgiving week, and even then, it's a little more crowded than that. And it is a little chilly outside. We'll do the game day forecast here, powered by Deborah Hickey Beer Distributor.
It's damp. That's the thing I can tell you.
It is damp.
It's a damp, cold.
It's about 50 right now. It's a little chilly, a little windy. It's going to get up to, at best, 59 by the fourth quarter.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. But you have some coffee. I have some hot chocolate, and we're going to keep ourselves heated. What are fans asking the questions of? Of course, you mentioned the coaching search is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be Brom. It could be Keek. Could be you. Could be me. I don't know. It could be anybody.
Could be anybody at this point.
It could be anybody at this point. But we are here, and we're going to enjoy ourselves and have a little bit of fun this week because we need to bring fun back to football. That's the acronym, right? In football, it's fun is the F.
Yes.
Nothing else.
And then I'm not going through 10 minutes of figuring out what the rest of football is in an acronym. So I was downtown last night talking to some people at our favorite watering hole, Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. And some fans of the show and I were hanging out. And by the way, lots of Indiana people in the bar.
There are a lot of Indiana people here right now.
A lot of Indiana people at the bar and here. And the conversation I was having with the friends that were coming in from Louisiana, coming in from North Carolina, coming in from after work at State College High or something like that, was what happened this year? What happened to this team? How were we all so wrong? And it's really interesting because there's no nutshelling of this conversation. You know, like there's 1,000 different the way I said it is, when you break a mirror, there's not like, oh, this is the one crack that broke the mirror. There's 1,000 different shards.
Yeah.
And so you can say, what are the things that happened? So what I was thinking about last night, and I was thinking about this like for a while, is it was a complete misidentification of talent to scheme.
Yes.
Across the board and across the ball. The defense tried to implement a game plan and switch a fundamental aspect of its front that didn't work. And then Andy Kotelnicki, on the offensive side of the ball, it's a little more complicated.
Yes.
But I would say to nutshell it, the offense was built around Drew Aller in a way that did not complement his skills appropriately.
Yes.
And overestimated the talent of the offensive line returning as a fulcrum for success in the way that they were trying to build around it. Now, within that, it contains multitudes that deal with receivers, positional aptitudes that weren't there, running backs not progressing, and an offensive line that when you put them under pressure of not having option football to take some of the heat off of them, and maybe that's something we'll talk about today when we talk about why we're at the point here that I think Liam Clifford as a option quarterback isn't the worst idea.
Are you okay?
No, I am not. That's the point, is like we've gotten to the point in the season where this is a bad offense. And bad offenses need to have bad answers because all the good answers, they're gone. They tried those things. The good answers are traditional football. They cannot play traditional football and be successful against competent teams. So what are the ways that bad teams try to cheat? And I mean cheat in terms of cheat scheme and get easy yards and find a little bit of breathing room within the scheme. And a Wildcat quarterback, you could do worse than a wide receiver who isn't one of your starting four.
You could.
And you could do worse than putting a quarterback back there to get hurt, which they've already done.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into why a little bit later, but yes, that is where we are right now. And people were not happy when I said that yesterday in my 5 things to watch.
Fair.
But yeah, like the way they did it last week against Ohio State, I am absolutely not in favor of. But the idea of, let me ask you this.
Yes.
A quarterback that doesn't throw the football and a wide receiver playing quarterback with no option to throw the football, what's the difference? Liam Clifford has had more opportunities to throw the football than Jackson Smolik this year.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in having Liam Clifford back there?
I don't have. There's none. You're right. You're very spot on here. Like, this is. I don't know if you remember this game. This was back in the middle of, I think, 2021, in the middle of COVID going on. The Saints played the Broncos, and all of the Broncos quarterbacks were either injured or out in COVID protocol, and they started Kendall Hinton at quarterback, the receiver.
Yeah.
It was the single worst game of football I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't throw the ball. He tried to, but the Saints had a competent enough defense to just kind of play, and it was just a game of football, and they had to kind of run the ball, and that was what a lot of it ended up becoming. And so that's what it feels like this is going to end up being. This is going to be a lot of just general football run and played, and I don't know. You mentioned Liam Clifford. Personally, I'd rather have like Katron Allen in the middle of that and put like Katron and then Nick Singleton and then whoever else is fast and just say like run in directions and do things.
And they tried that in the beginning of the season. So this is the funny thing is like, you know, we're getting kind of into some of the things I was talking about last night with the group assembled while we were just chatting about football. Is that was the game plan to start the season.
Yeah.
Katron Allen was the Wildcat quarterback to start the season. And it was so ineffective that they had to bag the whole thing they'd been working on in the offseason. And so the passing element has to be there, or else it's easy to defend.
The problem is, if you have no quarterback, you can't pass the ball.
Which is the whole problem of having Drew Aller as your starting quarterback in this scheme, and the root cause of Andy Kotelnicki's failure at Penn State. Which, do you want to take a break and we'll get into that next? Because I think like that's the biggest story of the year to me. It's not necessarily the defense, although the defense has been disappointing.
Oh, boy.
The offense coming back in the state that it was and having the effect that it's had, I was shocked. I was expecting this to be the offense we thought it was going to be
Yes.
in the offseason. Now, I had a feeling they were going to have some issues in terms of passing the ball. I wasn't bought into the receivers.
This is capital red blinking light issues. This is not just issues written out on a chalkboard.
Yes. Yeah, this is you pulled the fire alarm sort of issues. And I mean, that's how you are down to your second string quarterback, and you've lost your third string quarterback, and we're now playing semantics of whether or not he's going to come back this year.
Oh boy.
And that's again, as I've seen now, this is now a pattern of development of Power 4 football from Andy Kotelnicki. This is the second season where he's had no quarterbacks left by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So all these things, all these information, data points, we're learning together at a certain aspect of it.
And we will get into all of this and the offense and defense coming up here on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue Issue YouTube channel. Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr. And we're going to get into the open practice highlights because, practice happened this week. Players practiced and did things. The question is, what things did they do? We'll get into that coming up.
I'm Thomas Frank Carr, and this is your Penn State practice update on the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. If you want to get these updates as they happen Wednesday night and then full reports afterwards, subscribe to the BlueWhiteIllustrated.com right now for just $1 and get access to our premium content for a week to try us out. After months and months of consistency, even years of consistency under head coach James Franklin during our weekly media insights, things have gotten strange and different under Terry Smith. The open period started with special teams on both practice fields. The offensive field was practicing field goals, while the defensive field was working on kick blocking. Now, that part isn't necessarily different. Meanwhile, the walk-ons and skill players worked in positional combination drills such as handoffs and routes. Walk-on Jack Lambert was with this group while wearing Indiana starting quarterback Fernando Mendoza's number 15. Yet the 17 everyone was looking for, quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer, was nowhere to be seen on the practice field for the first half of our open session. Starting quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer and the top quartet of running backs were inside Haluba Hall with doors closed, presumably as the backfield worked on installing something new, which is what they did during the bye week. After that special teams period, Grunkmeyer and the running backs emerged from the indoor practice field, and Grunk began working with the starting receivers on passing routes before switching to the tight ends to work through a variety of passing concepts. However, at no point did we see backup quarterback Jackson Smolik or Beckham Kritza, who interim head coach Terry Smith said was ill and out of practice this week. Finally, the offensive line was working on pad level and drive blocking drills. Drew Shelton, who left the game against Ohio State late, was back with the team and the first tackle through drills. Senior Nolan Rucci was with him on that lineup, although there was no first five that we saw during practice. That'll do it for this week. Stay tuned for more from the Penn State Football Tailgate Show coming up next.
Have you heard of Wave Fruit Farm? It's this great farm market bakery and cafe. You can shop with them either at their farm in Port Matilda or downtown State College.
No way.
Yes, Wave Fruit Farm. They have all sorts of seasonal fruits and veggies.
Way cool.
No, Wave Fruit Farm. But anyway, you should visit their bakery and cafe. They serve amazing food all day.
Way.
Fruit Farm.
Yeah, I mean, well, Ohio State just being better and deeper, just kind of that gulf just kind of grows, right? You know, the over the time, we've seen it with Penn State teams in the past where they're just better than the other team, and that's going to wear on you throughout the game. And now Penn State's in that exact opposite situation that they were. From the defensive line standpoint, just still not as physical as they need to be, not as physical as they've been in the past couple of years, and then you break that, and all of a sudden it gets to the second level, and the second level becomes the third level pretty quickly. I will say there's been a lot of, from what I've seen since the game, talking about Penn State's defensive team speed. And I got to say, it's still a fast defense from January to August. They've got speed. Those guys can run fast. I think that they are playing this system in a situation where they are very much behind the eight ball there. Like they're not playing fast because they don't know the full scope of the system. And then when you get on top of that, there's no pressure. It's going to just sort of magnify all that stuff. So I'm looking at this defense from front to back and saying, well, they're not doing it up front, and that's just kind of filtering to the back there. And that's really killed.
Not a lot of help. Not a lot of help.
Yeah. Not a lot of help, not a lot of finishing up front. You're thinking that third down where Julian Sayin was not dead to rights, but he was, he was pressured.
I would call that dead rights. They had two unblocked defenders basically at him, and he deked out both of them.
Well, I've watched a lot of Penn State defense this year, so I don't think anyone's been dead to rights in the backfield because they're not getting to the quarterback. But yes, and Julian Sayin, who, as we said last week, was not going to run the ball, indeed ran the ball for 8 yards, 9 yards, whatever. But that made all the difference. Kept the punter on the sideline, and that's a big deal. And that's what you're looking at. And I just like the Kotelnicki thing that we talked about earlier. I don't know that there's a quick fix to this. I don't know that there is a fix to this. You're going to play worse teams over the last 3 games of the season. That'll help, definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got no real presence up front. And the coaches that I've talked to from other programs, the coaches that I've talked to that have watched this team on film, it's noticeable. It's noticeably different than it was a year ago. And you really miss, especially the guys like Devon Ellies and Keziah Izzard, and, getting Izzard back for this year would have made a big difference, I think. But that's all hindsight. That's all speculation and all stuff. And better serve for another tell-all or something at the end of the year.
Nate, what did you think of the defense? We spent a long time talking about the offense because I think it is more interesting.
You are here live on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships celebrating more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and transportation needs. Home of the $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania. Kyle F. Thomas Ricard with you here at a very empty Beaver Stadium, University Park area.
It is a beautiful day, though, for November 8th today. Like the sun is shining. We're in the shadow here of the Bryce Jordan Center, and I do need to petition at some point for a new spot in the sun, because every single one of these morning games, we're over here, and it's like, I look like a Long Island shoreman.
You do. You look like you're going on a boat to get some lobster or something.
Yeah, and like I'm dressing to make sure that you don't hear the chatter in my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm weak now. I admit that, but I'm here to do a good job. Our key matchups today. Kyle's got a key matchup today, so I'm going to let you go first. Because, of course, I just am going to go for about 30 minutes once we get into the key matchup. But I wanted to get I'm always excited when you have a thought. So what is it?
So it is time for our key matchups powered by Stocker Chevrolet. For me, key matchup, Penn State against themselves. At this point, I think Penn State's just beating themselves. And, yes, the teams they're facing are winning the games, but so many times, especially we've discussed the Iowa game ad nauseum now, they just beat themselves on so many plays. And it feels like they did it against Ohio State too. Ohio State's better than them. But Terry Smith pointed out this week that he was they just kept beating us over the top.
Yeah.
Constantly. And it was hey, let's not let that happen anymore.
Yeah.
And they did it again. And then again. So, Penn State against themselves is kind of my key matchup here, because if Penn State just is playing competent football and isn't beating themselves, they at least have, a chance of making this a football game instead of just one team playing practice.
So this is all going to lead back to Liam Clifford as the Wildcat quarterback.
Here we go.
I'm gonna hammer that today, because it is indicative of where the hell we are in this football season.
Yeah,
so here's my matchup is Ethan Grunkmeyer against the front seven for the Indiana defense. And here is, if you've been watching the YouTube channel all week, you're going to see some stuff, you're going to hear some stuff you've heard before. But for our radio audience, and I'm going to hammer this home today, allowing Ethan Grunkmeyer to play football, but also trying to help him avoid this is the absolute must in this game. So this is all, by the way, this is all with the understanding that they have to run the ball effectively, and that is the primary form of how they're going to move the football. But when they do throw the football, here's what they're up against. Indiana and their ranking in the Big Ten: blitz percentage first, stunt percentage first, pass blitz percentage first, simulated pressures first, pass stunts first, run blitz fourth. Wow, how lame. Run stunts and unblocked pressure,
now,
all first in the Big Ten. They are the most aggressive. By the way, that includes Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
So, like, I've compared this defense to Manny Diaz's defense. This is more aggressive by magnitude than Manny Diaz.
Saying something because Manny was known for just, like, throwing bodies everywhere all the time, constantly. And, like, I'm no mathematician. I went to school for journalism. I didn't go for math. That's a lot of high numbers.
Yeah.
In, like, the golf score range.
One is good.
Yeah.
One is very – well, I guess one is descriptive because if you're doing that and you're not effective, it doesn't matter. But that's why I put at the bottom there unblocked pressures, meaning you're getting players to the quarterback for free that don't have to beat a block.
Yeah, you're getting a free shot at the quarterback.
That means that they're coming in fast as well. So they are the best team at getting quick pressure in the Big Ten as well. So Ethan Grunkmeyer under pressure when he throws the football. And by the way, this is the run as well.
Yeah.
In the run game, that's what a run stunt is when you exchange gaps and you're not where you started the play. That all messes with the offensive line that is designed to create chaos for the offense. And it's a young quarterback. So last week there was, some sophistication to the last defense, but if you followed your rules, you might find the right play.
Yeah.
This week you could follow your rules and you could still be on your back because the rules don't apply to this defense. I have seen formations where they are putting all 4 of their defensive linemen inside the guards, like basically stuffing the middle with bodies on first down.
Which is crazy.
They've had formations in non-obvious passing situations where every single offensive lineman is to the left of the center. They've had them where they're to the right of the center. They will do anything and everything to F with Penn State's mind collectively on offense. So this is the trade-off. When you do that, they want you to throw the ball into predictable parts of the field. Meaning, if you're going to get quick pressure, you're going to throw the ball quickly. And they overload those zones. So they predict where the ball is going to go, then they jump those routes and get interceptions. That's why they have so many this year.
Louis Moore, I believe, has 5 interceptions on the season.
Yeah.
So, like, they're really good at it.
They're good at it.
And they have good corners. Moore is good. Pons is a really good corner as well. Like, they've got a lot of guys back there to capitalize on those mistakes.
And those guys don't even – so the thing is they are so aggressive on underneath routes because they don't think you're going to have time to throw the ball deep. And I'm not saying that these aren't good athletes that can cover deep. They just don't have to as much.
Yeah.
It's also telling that they don't care that you know what they're going to run on the back end. I've said this week as well. You can't be complicated on both sides. You can't be complicated in the front. You can't be complicated in the secondary at the same time because you only have 11 defenders. You can't do fancy things everywhere. So certain defenses are characterized by the complexity of what they do up front, and some are characterized by the complexity of what they do in the back. They run cover 3 half the time.
Okay.
So they're going to be in cover 3 almost all game long, and that's where Penn State's opportunity is. Get this? You ready? To throw the ball down the field.
What? So
It's
for those
the worst
uninitiated,
possible matchup. It's the worst possible matchup.
What is cover 3 for those uninitiated? The fans out there that are like, okay, but what am I going to see on the field? So what's happening in cover 3 when Penn State is facing this Indiana defense?
It is one of the more basic coverage shells where you have 3 deep coverage defenders, typically 2 corners and a middle field safety, and that is a very defined defense for a quarterback to read. He knows where to go with the ball. It has some very obvious strengths and weaknesses. A lot of teams use it when they want to stop the run and they want to flood underneath zone. It's designed to take away the quick game, short passes, and the run, but it does leave you susceptible to throws up the middle of the defense. You know, the seam of the defense, if you heard that, where the hash marks are on the field, those are vulnerable if you have the time to allow receivers to run to that area. And here's the other thing. You actually run receivers to that part of the field.
Which I don't remember Penn State doing since, like, week 3, I think, approximately.
And this is
it's
why,
been a while.
This is why last week Terry Smith said we are going to throw the ball down the field because this was the same setup with Ohio State on 3rd down. This is what I was trying to say. There's going to be more opportunities to throw the ball down the field. They're going to give you some of these things if you can find the right zone to throw to. And I thought Ethan Grunkmeyer showed, especially on 3rd down when he was 5 of 8 on 3rd down because they waited until 3rd down to let him throw the ball. He showed that he was capable of doing that. It's the same thing this week, but with more pressure. So there are opportunities there, and Terry Smith last week said we're going to throw the ball down the field. It's going to happen. We're going to take those select shots, and then they never did. And this week he said we will throw the ball down the field. We will put Kobe Howard out there. And this is a good transition into that conversation about
Okay.
Kobe Howard, because I feel like I've cracked the code there on why Kobe Howard isn't getting on the field.
Okay.
And it's painfully stupid.
So Kobe Howard, freshman receiver,
Yeah.
highly talented. Fans have been crying out for him all season.
Yep.
After October 11th, the last time we were here outside of Beaver Stadium, it seems that Kobe Howard's gotten in a little more into the game plan, a little bit, but not a lot.
Like
and so what is the
5 plays.
And what have you deciphered from watching Penn State, from listening and being, you and being involved and understanding what's going on?
So my guy Cypher Carbon here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel has been very adamant that Kobe Howard needs to be on the field, and he's right. And so going back and looking at it, he is the primary backup to Kyron Hudson.
Yes.
But here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to throw the football.
No.
They've decided with their backup quarterback on the field after the Iowa game, they've decided that they don't trust him. And so they're going to, Andy Kotelnicki, his desire for control, a screen and an RPO are no decision passes for the quarterback. You read numbers. If there's 3 defenders out towards your receivers and you've got 4 of them out there, or whatever the number is, if you've got more, you throw the ball. If you don't, you hand it off. If it's an RPO, if a guy moves left or right, whatever the stimulus is, then you throw the ball. And if not, you hand it off. There's no decision-making by the quarterback. And Kobe Howard, as dumb as this sounds, is a passing receiver and not a blocking receiver. So if you want to get your tight ends involved, who are the blockers on screens, and you want to get your running backs involved, who are the catchers on screens, you know who's not being involved? Your receiving receivers. Traver Pena is going to be your slot guy who's going to catch that ball. Your running backs are going to catch that ball. And Kyron Hudson, the senior, is going to be the blocker.
Yeah.
So their lack of faith, until they absolutely had to throw the football, especially on first down, against Ohio State, is why Kobe Howard doesn't get in the game. Because if they're going to rotate him with Kyron Hudson. And if they haven't got enough passing down snaps where they're calling an actual passing play, then Kobe's not getting into the game. So changing that has to happen this week. That is one of those Terry Smith has to step in and say, I don't care what you want to do, what you think you're going to do. Put Kobe Howard out there and let him block a couple times and then throw him the football.
There's literally nothing to lose at this point.
No.
Like, it cannot get any worse. So you may as well just kind of let it rip, let it fly, put him out there, and also I don't understand the idea of we don't trust Ethan Grunkemeyer after this Iowa game. I don't get that at all. It was his first game being starting quarterback for this Penn State team. They just lost their starting quarterback for the season due to an ankle injury.
He threw 2 picks.
He threw 2 picks.
Yep.
And they also lost their head coach that week. So it was a very, very emotional week.
Right.
And they went into one of the toughest environments in college football, played a really good defense, and said, we have no faith in you anymore.
So
if this was them playing like Oklahoma State's defense, where it's truly not good, that's one thing. But they played like an actual defense with players and people who do things.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? You didn't look good against that. We're not going to trust you. That would be tough for any quarterback to play against.
Yep.
I mean, look at Indiana. They put up 20 points on that with Mendoza. Oregon put up a few more. Like, it was a good team, a good defense. So why are we no longer trusting him when Ethan Grunkemeyer put up like a display you'd expect from a first-time starting redshirt freshman quarterback against a really competent defense in a tough environment at night when your team is vulnerable because you just fired your head coach and your starting quarterback is out for the season?
This is where you learn the wrong lessons from a situation.
Yep.
Even smart people and people. By the way, as much as Penn State fans want Penn State to win, the coaches have more on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They have more on the line for their professional careers. It affects them personally, their bottom line, if you want to get all the way down to like the nitty-gritty
They're
of it.
coaching for their coaching futures, not just in Happy Valley, but in general, because
And when people feel threatened, they kind of go into a shell. And when they and this is again kind of indicative of a man who feels like it's his job to control the offense. Andy Kotelnicki's style has been one of control. And so if you feel like you don't trust your quarterback, you need to essentially be mouse clicking him as to where the ball goes, because they let him throw in that game. He made a mistake on a read and threw the ball down the field and had an interception. and then he made a decision and went to his first read and threw the ball to a covered Luke Reynolds, who did not run a great route, and that ended up in an interception. As much by bad luck because the ball was batted up as down, but he did throw that ball into a bad look. And when you give a quarterback the opportunity to make those decisions, you don't have as much time to be like, let him work through it if there's winning and losing on the field, because they could have won that game.
Yes.
And it did result in them giving up points before halftime. They lose by a point. I don't want to go too far in the criticisms of people who are doing something that is harder than what we think it is.
Yeah.
At the same time, you cannot beat good teams by deferring the quarterback position
because
it's impossible.
And if the defense knows you're going to be controlling where the ball is placed at all times, they can sell out on it. And all of a sudden,
hence Ohio State's defense.
Yes, like that's what Ohio State did.
Yep.
Is they were like, well, we know the ball's going here, and our defense is really good, so we're just gonna stop it.
And that's what Indiana wants you to do. That's what Indiana forces other good teams to do.
Yeah,
is to throw the ball short, to throw screens, to throw passes into areas they can predict and control, and they can corral. It's kind of like herding. It's kind of like they're trying to herd the ball into a pen so that it doesn't get out into open space. If you've ever tried to catch an animal that has gotten loose, the thing you're trying to do is find an area to enclose it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just was thinking about all the times I had to run out into a field and catch a cow. It's the worst. It's just awful.
T-Frank versus cow is a matchup I want to see happen.
Oh, no. I get really frustrated and mad. That is something that you don't want if you're a defense, is you want to keep the ball behind the line of scrimmage, enclosed in the pocket. You want to keep it underneath the coverage. If it gets loose, that's when disaster happens. But in order to that's what Indiana is trying to do with this defense. And Penn State, my fear for this game is that they're going to play directly into that because they don't trust their quarterback enough. Given that this is also a hard environment for him to play in, what I just described, this is a hard defense to beat if you don't have pass protection and quality receivers to get open and break tackles. And Penn State, by the way, yards after the catch, I was looking this up because Indiana is like third in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I think Penn State is like 15th or 16th. They have 700 yards after the catch. They have broken so few tackles that at a certain point, I do empathize with the coaching staff of what do you want us to do when we design a play to get 8 yards and it dies after 6?
And I think this past week, they had most of their yards were out yards after the catch. The problem was because they were all short passes.
Right.
All of those yards were just kind of running sideways, running slightly diagonally.
Right.
None of it was deep. Usually you don't want a lot of yards after catch if you're throwing the deep ball because usually you catch the ball and you're tackled.
Yes.
Pretty quickly.
And it's also about averages, right?
Yes.
So if you got 114 or 140 yards after the catch, but it's 25 catches, and that averages out to 6 yards because you threw the ball 0 yards down the field, you get 6. That's actually the average pass in college football is 7 yards per completion. You're getting a yard less by doing that,
which is oh boy.
Yes, so this is where we are. So this leads back to, and I told you it's all going to lead back to
Liam Clifford.
Liam Clifford as the Wildcat quarterback. And by the way, Terry Smith said this week they call it the Lion Cat, which, as Sean Fitz pointed out this week, is the cat, not the wild lion.
Yeah,
it's the Lion Cat package. I don't know if you might be too young for this. Do you remember SWAT Cats on Cartoon Network?
No idea.
Darn. Do you remember the Thundercats?
I do know the Thundercats.
Either of those are better options than Lion Cat.
Yeah.
That made me cringe. But anyway. I digress.
You digress.
Liam Clifford as the Wildcat quarterback
is a thing that will probably happen. And my question for you on this offense in general. So if let's say the decision is no longer Andy Koldaniki and he is not the one controlling the offense. Let's say he does let loose. We have no indication that's going to be the case. We have no idea if it's going to happen. Zero indication. At this point, we are just guessing because Penn State, it is at this point where for Penn State, if you take out the 2020 season, which was the COVID year, the 9 games, they were 4-5.
Yeah.
You knock that out of it, and the 2021 season, or the 2020 season, just that one out of
Yeah,
it.
2020. Yep.
The last time Penn State was under 500 was 2004. I was 4 years old. 4.
I thought you were born in the 90s.
I was born in 2000.
Oh, boy.
I was barely 4 years old at that point.
No wonder you don't know what SWAT Cats is. Of course not.
No,
By the
wonder
way,
why.
that reference is awesome to anyone who was born in the 90s. I'm just going to go ahead
I will-
and say
I will shake your hand, sir. Thank
Millennials
you.
love it, and they
Yeah.
they haven't chimed in yet.
No.
That's what I've decided.
But the point is, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if our body language could tell you this or not, but, like, this is uncharted territory.
I've never done this before.
This is This is us trying to like guesstimate and predict and figure things out, but we're staring at a stadium and we don't know what's going to happen. Usually, in like past seasons or past games, we can give you an idea of what to expect, but we don't know because Penn State. When a team is losing to this degree, they've lost 5 straight games now.
Yeah.
If they lose one more, they can only get to 500. That's the best they can get.
Yep.
And they have to get to a bowl game. They need to win 3 of the next 4 games. And they're facing the number 2 team in the nation. Nebraska's without Dylan Raiola for the season, so who knows about that one now.
Yeah.
And then Michigan State has a new quarterback, and Rutgers is Rutgers. So, like, there's no idea for those games.
Spicy Rutgers, by the way.
Spicy Rutgers.
They can throw the ball this year.
Spicy Rutgers is salt and pepper. This is I'll say it. This is not a good football team at the moment.
So,
And this is
Kyle.
Penn State fans need to adjust their expectations for what is a 3-5 football team.
I have to invoke our one reference rule for the day.
Go for it. Do it.
Of all the people here who understand what it's like to cover a bad football team, Kyle, Syracuse alum, understands what it's like to cover a bad football
You know what?
team.
I will do you one better. A Syracuse alumni whose team without Steve Angeli is playing a lacrosse player at quarterback right now because Ricky Collins, the transfer from LSU, wasn't good enough, which probably prompted Trevor Pena to come to Penn State. Now, Syracuse is terrible. And you know who my NFL team is? The New Orleans Saints, who have the first overall pick as of this moment in the NFL draft. So, like,
So what do you do?
You know.
So this is here to reference our perspective on these things and Penn State fans' perspective on these things.
Yes.
Through the worst sanctions ever levied by the NCAA, Penn State did not go below 500,
No.
as you just mentioned over there. During the rebuild, when they had 65 scholarship players and like 3 scholarship offensive linemen, they did not go below 500. Now, part of that is scheduling because they did have Buffalo was a frequent member of their schedule.
Still had to beat Buffalo.
Still had to beat Buffalo. This is I've never covered a team this bad. Like my senior year of college was the scandal year, was the sanctions year, and they still finished that year above 500. They've never been in a situation as long as I've known or covered the team where going to a bowl game is on the line.
Yeah.
And I had this thought today. This is what it's like for Penn State fans. This is what it's like to be Maryland and Rutgers. This is what it's like to be Michigan State coming down the stretch and wondering apathetically if there's going to be a bowl game to watch during the holiday season.
Yeah. Everyone laughed at Nebraska when they got to a bowl game last year, and there was like the celebration and the jubilation of like, we got to a bowl game. Welcome. Because this is what it's like right now. And we don't know what next year brings. Next year, Penn State could do what Indiana did. They brought Kurt Cignetti in. All of a sudden, 10 wins, bowl game, everyone's happy, sunshine and rainbows. It could be that. It could also not be that. There is the expectations and Penn State fans' reality. This is the biggest reality check you will face because all of a sudden, the football team is not the best team in Happy Valley. And, I don't think it's close. You've got other teams where, of course, wrestling is a whole other class for Penn State. You've got hockey, who is number 3 in the nation right now. They lost last night to number 1 in overtime. And they're really good. Women's basketball won last night right behind us in Rec Hall, down the street a little bit. They're a good team. This is Penn State fans. This is not going to be fun. And as someone who is, again, watching the Saints and Syracuse have no quarterback, Tyler Shuck is starting for the Saints now. I don't know who he's throwing the ball to. because
This is-
Rashid Shaheed's is a Seahawk now.
Yeah.
So, like, he could throw the ball to me, and I wouldn't question it.
This is so to get back to
The Penn
game,
State of it all.
To get back to the game today and why, like, some of these things, to that point, I would like to see them trust Ethan Grunkmeyer because here's the thing. Here's the thing. He is not without talent. He is a player that has a strong arm and a quick release, and he is a quick decision maker. You need to make good decisions, and he's still a young player who's going to make some mistakes. But Penn State is trying to win the game, and they think the some mistakes are too much. Like that is a mistake is too much, so they have to eliminate the quarterback. But this is the thing that I've been saying for several weeks now. You cannot eliminate the quarterback and play good football. The quarterback is – this is why everyone pays quarterbacks. This is why everyone is desperate to find the next guy. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance unless you're playing a team that is fundamentally flawed as well. And so if you're in a game plan where we're now talking about Liam Clifford, this is what bad teams do. But as you just mentioned, and as we just laid out, this is not a good team. So now, like, let's stop pretending like, what's the answer here? This is unacceptable. Yes, it is unacceptable, but this is where the unacceptable live. So let's talk about Liam Clifford, the option quarterback. I'm not going to let this go.
No.
I'm not going to let this go. This offense, and I'm talking about a lot of fundamentals here. The root cause of the issue in Andy Kotelnicki's offense is that he needs some sort of distraction from the run game to generate explosive plays. And by distraction, I mean a stress on the defense that takes away traditional run fits, linebackers and defensive linemen getting into their gaps and being gap sound. The thing he has done traditionally is to have an option quarterback. What an option does, you know what it looks like, the mesh point, them looking at the end man of the line of scrimmage. What it does is it takes three players, basically the backside of the defense, and it makes all of them hesitate. The backside safety, he's not included in the run game. Like, he is just an extra defender. He has to make sure that something doesn't leak out the backside. The backside will linebacker cannot run into his run gap. The backside defensive end has to decide whether or not he's going to attack the running back or he's going to wait and take the quarterback. That is indecision on a structural level. The other thing you can do is you can do an RPO, which is a throw on the backside of a run, and it does the same thing. The linebacker and the safety have to wait in their zones because, again, a defense doesn't know before the play if it's a run or a pass. So you've got to play both before the play. They wanted to be an RPO team this year. They did significantly less read option because they knew Drew Aller wasn't actually a runner. They wanted a little bit of that. Drew Aller was also not an RPO quarterback. He did not have the footwork, and they did not have the receiver, Kyron Hudson, the guy that they brought in to be the number one to catch those contested catches. He was not the receiver to make those plays. None of that worked, and so all of the pressure of the defense fell on the offensive line. And we saw the results. We've seen the results. With all that pressure, there are fewer good running lanes. Nick Singleton, his regression is almost directly tied to a lack of obvious running lanes. His vision last year wasn't great. It was just there were
lanes,
very obvious lanes.
And so he can fly through them.
And he can run very fast through them and get 12 yards, but at no point was he generating more than the scheme allowed. The scheme, thanks to Tyler Warren, Bo Pribula, and all of the other things, pulling players out of the box, all of that created running lanes. Katron Allen has taken a step forward in his vision, in his patience, in his decision-making. There's a reason he's working, because this offensive line isn't terrible. It's just okay. With problems, right?
The gaps have
issues.
The gaps have shrunk from 2 feet to a foot, and he can get through them and do things with it.
And
Nick Singleton needs 2 feet.
And he can create his own openings at times.
Yes.
So how do you create less pressure on the offensive line, less people ignoring the other parts of the field? The option quarterback. That's how you do it. And if Jackson, this is the thing, in the game against Indiana, Katron Allen had 71 rushing yards on 6 carries. Because they had the option working. And every option became a threat to the defense, and you had to play the game differently. So, Jackson Smollett's not available, but they never let him throw the ball. Liam Clifford runs a 4.4. He's a good decision maker. Like he hasn't done anything stupid with a football when they tried to let him throw. So if you're going to be playing bad offense and you need one of these things because RPOs aren't enough and they're going to take those away in this game, then why not run your option quarterback whose brother is a quarterback?
So go for broke is what you're saying at this point. Like you've got nothing to lose. Again, we've said it.
Nothing to lose, and there is a path. There is a logical path from that to the other thing. As long as, and here's the thing, as long as Liam Clifford actually runs the football at some point, and you don't put him back there just to do performative things, because there were times he was handing the ball off, and there was no option. There was no read. It was a charade. Too much of this offense is just BS. Can I say the full thing?
Let's not.
All right. It's just chicanery. It's nonsense. Like, I'm not saying that it's all of it is, but there's so much of this that's like, well, we know you were watching film, so what you think we're going to do the opposite of what you do so that you think we're going to do the thing, but then we don't do the thing, so then we're just going to do the thing you want us to do. So, psych, you didn't think we were going to do that, and here we go, we're going to do it. Oh, wait, no, you were going to just stop that anyway?
I have a headache.
Yes! Yes! This is, again, when I'm watching film, and I'm watching the coach's film, and I'm seeing these things of, like, you watch it back, and I'm like, but that didn't do anything. Like, what you did is you put a player in an unexpected position and had him do the exact same thing you would have, like, the regular player do without generating any actual stress on the defense other than, oh, no, there's a different quarterback. That doesn't do anything. Oh, and by the way, putting Ethan Grunkmeyer in motion, no one takes that seriously.
Yes.
So, like, that's the problem, is there are these elements that I'm like, okay, if you want to do that, I've seen this work before. I've seen that movie work before. But the insistence on always having an actual quarterback on the field, it just that doesn't work. And then the inability to commit to the plan of, okay, now you got your receiver playing quarterback, have him be the runner. Have him keep the ball. Even if it's the wrong read, so that, like, you're wasting a play anyway with him back there. You might as well have him run the ball. That's why, like, if you're going to do it this week, just do it. Just do it. And the problem is, like, they don't have enough snaps.
Yes.
So they get into something, and then they get timid of, like, oh, no, well, we can't do too much of that because we need to make sure we don't stray too far from the game plan because we're probably going to go 3 and out. You're going to go 3 and out anyway, so just dive into what you're doing, commit to a thing, and allow your players to get into a flow of, like, this is what we're doing, so let's go do it full speed. That's the other thing is, like, I know I'm talking too much. Like, this is just got me fired up, thinking of the problems and how they're just, like, they're half-pregnant ideas. Just commit to the idea and do it, even if it's something as awful as Liam Clifford, the Wildcat quarterback.
You mean the Lion Cat quarterback. We will get to the defensive side of things coming up here on 99.5 107.
Oh!
Coming back on 99.5 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends 103.7 104.3. Streaming live on the Blue Is to the YouTube channel. Kyle F. Thomas Frank Carr on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. When we get back, we'll discuss the defense. Right now, we are heading on over to our Coach's Corner, powered by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Who has time for press conferences? That's why we've set aside the most important stuff for you. It's Coach's Corner, powered by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
The 5-game skid continues for the Nittany Lions. Penn State's loss to number 1 in the nation, Ohio State, was maybe not a surprise, but Penn State still showed effort. Even with the first half positives, there were some negative sides of the ball that interim head coach Terry Smith highlighted this past week.
We have to continue to strain in our blocking in the run game. The second half, that became an issue, and then also pass protection was an issue in the second half as well. And then, obviously, pushing the pass game down the field. Defensively, positives were, I thought the defensive line really played stout. For the most part, they were good in the run game. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, 15 pressures. And then we also set up a score right before the half.
Penn State's pass rush was lauded as one of the nation's best through the first few games of the season. Add in the 24-25 success of Denai Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant, and others, everything felt on the up and up on the defensive line. But, as noted by Smith, it has not been a positive 2025 season. Add in one glaring difference from 24-25 team, and it all makes sense for a major drop-off.
You know, it's a completely different defense. This defense is more gap control. Last year's defense was more vertical push up the field. You know, and it's just a different philosophy. Another reason is we don't have Abdul Carter as well. You know, that's a major factor. And so, you know, we felt like we got a lot more pressure this weekend. We have to continue to develop that and get more pressure on the quarterback.
Before being named interim head coach, Harry Smith was the defensive backs coach. His DB roots have not left him in that span of a month, as noted by his disdain for Penn State's performance against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Julian Sand and the Buckeyes threw for 316 yards against Penn State, including multiple 50-yard plays. Smith noted the issues that led to the big plays downfield.
You know, it's my job to get back more involved with the corner room, to make more points of emphasis that, you know, I think one of the reasons it happened is our guys, you know, the style of play that they play, they were sitting on routes a little bit too much. You know, some will say a lack of respect for who their opponent was. But when you play guys that can run routes and have speed like these guys, you have to get more into your pedal and stay on top of receivers, and we have to make sure we make a point of emphasis of just staying on top of those guys.
Vega Ioane has gone viral this week. A video showing the O-lineman hopping a railing to help a Penn State equipment manager push a heavy cart up a hill while being heckled by Ohio State fans made the rounds on social media. Coach Smith talked about Vega and the team's mentality heading into its matchup with number 2 Indiana coming up at noon today.
I am super proud of this team. I'm super proud of the leadership. These guys could have packed it in weeks ago. They could have laid down and quit. They refused to do that. When you see what Vanga did coming up the ramp and to jump across the banister and, you know, help out like that, you know, it's a testimony to the guys that we have here in this locker room. It's a testimony to Penn State. It's a testimony to the program of how things are run here.
That was your Penn State Coach's Corner. More from the Tailgate Show in a moment.
Let's start with stock up. Yeah, let's start positive, and then we'll end with stock down. And I think we should, now that I think about it, we should start with stock up from now on with our new imaging because there's a payoff with the stock down.
All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can check that out now. Brand new imaging for this week's Stock Up, Stock Down segment from T. Frank. Stock up number 3 on the list. I will eventually get to the point where I can navigate my computer here fast enough to do this. Is somebody on the defensive side of the ball for you, T. Frank? Number 3 on your stock up list.
Yeah, Alex Tash got in the game. They finally broke the seal and put in a young linebacker in a rotational role. He played the will, and I thought he did okay. Like, watching him be in position was a big thing, right? And making sure that he knew where to be for the most part. I thought he had a good drop where he took away a deeper route, and then he was just a little bit slow to get down into the flat to take away the underneath route, but still was able to get there. I think he rallied for a play. There was just a lack of confidence, in his movements. There was a lack of physicality, a lack of explosiveness in the run game because he's still learning. And you see that, show up in the way you take on blocks. You got the right shoulder taking on the right block. You're in your gap, but you're not the one dictating the action. And so I wanted to give him credit for, being a freshman, being thrown out there and being in the right spot. So Alex Tash, a mild bump, stock up. I think you're going to get to see a little bit more of him. And I don't think he did anything on Saturday that I noticed that was obvious where he was out of position or maybe lost trust with the coaching staff. It's going to be more about getting him comfortable and confident in his second start to get some more size and physicality out there, because that is what he needs to bring, right? He's 227, 228. He's a bigger dude, and he needs to bring some of that wood. You need to lay the wood on a blocker or a lineman or a running back to really pay all that off as kind of a young and upcoming linebacker.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I struggled with putting together the stock up portion of today's show. Stock down was a lot easier. But I started my stock up number 3 with Penn State quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer. No, he was not great at Ohio State, but I have been impressed with the poise he showed, T. Frank. And the moment does not seem to be too big for him. Is the passing he's doing always accurate? No. Is he getting as much help as he possibly could from his teammates? No. Is Andy Kotelnicki putting him in the best spots for him and his offense to thrive? Probably not. But when you aside from all that stuff, certainly I think Ethan Grunkmeyer has done at least what you would expect, if not a little bit more, from a redshirt freshman making his first 2 starts on the road at Iowa and at Ohio State. I'm sure everyone's dream as a college football player is to become the starter, but it is a nightmare to do it at Iowa and at Ohio State. So he is stock up just for me because, again, I don't think he's more of a stock up because his stock's not.
Here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the YouTube channel right outside of chilly, windy Beaver Stadium here in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. Kyle Leff alongside Thomas Frank Carr. T. Frank, we got into some craziness with the offense here. We brought up Lion Cats, Thundercats, and Wildcats.
Yes.
Now let's go to the other side of the ball, the defense. We discussed the offense ad nauseum for Penn State football and the lackluster season so far. Let's get to the defense. And we'll start by, of course, pointing out the fact that, yes, part of the problem is Tony Rojas is injured. We get that. But injuries are a part of football. If a team goes uninjured for a whole season, usually they win. The problem is almost nobody goes uninjured. It's kind of how it works for a team and a defense and everything in between here. So the question then becomes, what does it look like? What does it look like for this Penn State defense moving forward? Jim Knowles and his defense, you already brought it up. His scheme and the team itself doesn't really align because, like, for instance, the past 2 seasons, he had players like Tyleik Williams in the middle, who is a humongous monster of a human being.
And a first-round draft pick at defensive tackle. And this is kind of the thing where I think it's very interesting, our retrospective on just team building in general. So, overall, Jim Knowles' scheme matches Penn State's historically, right? So they run a 4-2. And even last year, under Brent, Tom Allen, but going back to Brent Pry, they have been a 4-2 defense. Even if they say this is a 4-3 base defense,
it's 4-2.
They were playing nickel 90% of the time. So whether or not you decide you're in a base defense or you're in your sub package, if your sub package is 90% of what you're doing, we're arguing. Like, I even had this conversation with James Franklin. It's like, what's the difference between a 4-2 and a 4-3 that plays nickel all the time? And basically, he said it's semantics.
Yeah.
So it all kind of fits, but there are some fundamental differences in recruiting. And as you just pointed out, Tyleik Williams. When's the last time Penn State had a defensive tackle go in the first round of the NFL draft? And this is this is a rhetorical question because it doesn't matter. It's been probably
too long.
Probably longer than James Franklin's been the head coach. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head. When's the last time they had a 315-pound, 320-pound starter at defensive tackle? They've had one consistently over the last 10 years, and that was P.J. Mustipher. This team could not recruit defensive tackles that were the size and athleticism, and that's the important part, size and athleticism, to play a balanced style of defense. So the team had really bought into the Manny Diaz style of attacking defense, meaning you're not sitting there holding the point of attack in football. So there's the theory of gap control, or just bleep it, I'm running upfield and I'm going to get into the backfield. And so Penn State has recruited undersized but athletic defensive ends and maxed out their athleticism.
See Micah Parsons, Chop Robinson, Abdul Carter.
No.
Oh, not even them.
Those are defensive ends. No, those are I'm talking defensive tackles.
Tackles. Okay.
Zane Durant. Ty Blanding. Keziah Izzard is one of the biggest guys who's the most balanced of that group, and he was a 305-pound defensive tackle, which, by the way, in the NFL is the smaller size defensive tackle. They have historically had these smaller players because what they could find was athletes to develop, and they chose that over getting guys that were big and couldn't move. I had this conversation yesterday on the our Penn State football weekly chat, where people are now everything's bad.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's bad, so everyone is bad, and we must throw it all out and go back to
Yes.
something that is with less information and less, sophistication. We need to go back to eating dirt and grinding cigarettes and glass into our oatmeal. Chuck Losey is an unbelievably good strength coach.
Yes.
But he, like everybody else, takes orders of what his job is going to be. So Penn State chose to be athletic across the board on defense, be a fast defense. But they don't have size. And yes, you can get bigger, but you sacrifice the thing you're good at. And the strength gains of being, let's say Zane Durant being 300 pounds at 6 feet tall, are marginal compared to your strength gains.
Yes.
What you lose in athleticism, you're not making up for with strength. Strength is an athletic trait. Size is an athletic trait. When we say athleticism, we always think of like 3-cone drills and 40 times.
Yeah.
Strength is an athletic trait. And to be big enough, to be strong and fast is Tyleek Williams. And so fundamentally, they have not had a Chris Jenkins Jr. or any of those players at defensive tackle. Now let's get back to the original point. Jim Knowles wants to play that style of defense. And James Franklin has had this integration belief and policy while he was at Penn State. Going back to when Manny Diaz first got here, and it didn't go well in 2022. They didn't get the scheme.
Yeah.
So he said, never again. We're going to make sure that the incoming coach matches our internal language, our internal defensive beliefs. And here's the thing. When you get a guy like Manny Diaz or Jim Knowles, that's great. You can change the language, but the defense, the scheme, the full thing, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you take the trunk off an elephant, is it an elephant?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about here. And they could not adapt the scheme to the talent. And they decided to just go and do it anyway, and here we are.
Yeah. Here we are.
Fundamental mistake in talent evaluation and application to a team. And then as PSU Fan 78 in Blue White Illustrated, the BWI live chat says, our run defense has been really bad this year.
That's why, is because they don't have the size requisite to fight up the middle. And
then they lose Tony Rojas.
And then they lose the guy who's there to clean up the mess.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, there's a bigger mess. And it gets worse and worse because then all of a sudden responsibilities fall to other people who aren't particularly suited for certain things.
Dom DeLuca started his career as a safety at Penn State.
Yes.
When Manny Diaz got here, he moved to outside linebacker, which was a safety position in that defense.
Yeah.
It was a 4-3 defense. That player did not play deep, but they only played in space.
Yes.
Now, as a senior, he moved into the tackle box. So this is a former safety, and this is another great example of like, you can be big or you can be who you are. So Dom DeLuca could be 230 pounds.
Yeah.
He could still be marginally stronger and better against the run, marginally, but not much to make a difference, and also be too slow to be effective in pass coverage, which is what he brought to the table as a linebacker, as a third down and situational specialist, which even this year he's been good at. Now you're in a position where he's having to play linebacker at 220 in a system where he's asked to cover a gap traditionally, and you have this system failure, this absolute crash out. And that's, again, where we are and what they've tried to work through and adapt as the season is going. But you can't switch tracks at 70 miles an hour.
Nope.
Like you would need a full second off season to fix the issues that the defense has. And they've tried. They've had 2 bye weeks to try and tinker with this, and they've gotten reasonably better. I think that last week they were better against the run.
There was improvement.
But it wasn't good enough against the #1 team in the country.
Yep.
Today there's an opportunity for that. Not a big one.
But an opportunity.
An opportunity to be better this week against the run on an Indiana team that does not have the same level of talent, but is I would say even as compared to Ohio State, more systematically sound. They are better fit for their scheme, and everything is. They used to talk about pulling the rope in the same direction, everyone tugging on the rope as hard as they can in unison. That's Indiana.
Yep.
They're all bought in. They understand their roles, and they execute at a very high level. And sometimes that overrides talent and pushes you higher as an organization.
So we will see what happens with the Penn State defense against the Indiana offense. Brandon Mendoza and co. coming up here. We are here live on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. We'll be back on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Illustrated YouTube channel coming on up. But right now we're getting into This Week in Penn State Sports, powered by Miller's Hoagies.
It's more than just football at Penn State. Here's This Week in Penn State Sports, brought to you by Miller's Hoagies.
Hoops have arrived. Penn State men's and women's basketball kicked off their seasons in winning ways. The Penn State Lady Lions led off the year with an 83-55 drubbing of the Bucknell Bison. With Rec Hall as the returning home for the Lady Lions, the energy around Carolyn Keeger's squad is flowing. Add in returners Gracie Merkel and Rutgers transfer Keelman McMiller, and you have a recipe for success. Lady Lions took on the Cincinnati Bearcats last night and are next up against Coppin State Wednesday at 11:30 in Rec Hall. For Mike Rhodes' crew, they got off to winning ways in an interesting fashion. Men's basketball roared back and beat the Fairfield Stags 76-68 in the BJC on Monday. Meli Tunka and Caden Mingo led the charge to the come-from-behind victory. The men are on the road in Connecticut as we speak before taking on New Haven and the Nutmeg State. That game tips off at 1 p.m. after football begins with pregame at 12:30 p.m. Both basketball games this weekend are on It's Pop Radio 93.3. Penn State men's ice hockey has its toughest test yet, number 1 Michigan State. The Spartans and Nittany Lions faced off last night at 7 p.m., with Game 2 in East Lansing taking place today at 4. That goes on after football wraps up here at State College. The game can be heard on 93.7 3WZ. NFL trade deadline has passed, and only one Nittany Lion was traded leading into the deadline. New Los Angeles Chargers linebacker Odafe Oweh dominated for the Bolts against the struggling Tennessee Titans. The former Raven sacked Cam Ward twice in the game, his first multi-sack game of 2025. That was This Week in Penn State Sports. Back to the Tailgate Show in a moment.
Here's my problem: is I don't think Denai is playing badly, and there was just there's an unrealistic expectation for what he is and how he would play this year, and that has been the perceived stock down. I think there's also, and I talked about this on Monday, there's this perception that he wasn't playing hard because somebody put out a viral clip of him getting, sorry, I'm going to get into the X's and O's for a second because this really bothers me. Denai Dennis Sutton was supposed to be in the C gap on this viral clip where he gets inside and he gets jacked up by the tackle, right? And so then they give up a touchdown on a 1-yard run, and it looks like he's not playing hard because he got pushed off the spot. He won his original gap. He long-armed the tackle and then was working back into the actual point of attack where there was a fullback coming through. The linebacker and the safety were late to fill, so he's there as the only person that's going to stop that. But yes, Denai Dennis Sutton is 6'5", and he plays like he's 6'8". He's a tall player that does not play with great leverage, and so in that situation, it looks like he wasn't trying hard because he got pushed off the spot, even though he won the block and was just working back into being in the play. This idea that players aren't playing hard, like you don't know what they're doing for the most part, and then you just see what you want to see there. The reality here is Denai Dennis Sutton is just performing to his level of expectation. You talk about like that pass rush and how he didn't close on it. Yeah, because Denai doesn't turn well. Like these are the realities of what he's been since he was a 5-star prospect in high school. We talked about this on this channel and at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com for 5 years now. And it's not. Here's the thing: is like it sounds like I'm insulting him, and I'm trying to defend him. I'm trying to say, like, this is his skill set, and he is performing to expectation. Now, he has higher expectations for himself, and I respect that, and he wanted to be the best defensive end in college football. I wanted him to have the opportunity as an individual to go and achieve those things.
Yeah.
But it was going to be very hard for him to do that with his skill set, and we are seeing the results of that. So this is not, and, you know, I'm not saying the stock down is wrong here or anything, because it is the perception of the stock. But he's playing exactly the same way he did last year. Like, there's very little difference.
Right. Your list continues here with, I am not going to be able to find it, Keon Wiley is your stock down number 2.
Yeah, so we got to see him an extended period of time, got to see him in coverage, and we got to see his instincts, and there's a reason he hasn't been on the field. Like, struggled in coverage, struggled with knowing when to trigger downhill and attack in the run game. He did some good things. Like, he was a stout run defender at times, but overall,
at that Sam position, it became clear to me, like watching him react to things out on the field where he's pointing directly to his guy in man coverage and being like, this is my guy, I got him, and then he loses him immediately after the snap because the guy fakes blocking for like a beat. And so those are the things for a guy who's a redshirt junior that you shouldn't have, and why I think he struggled to see the field, especially that will position.
107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Kyle F. Thomas, Frank Carr on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, celebrating more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and transportation needs. Home with a $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania. And we're going to go rapid fire through around the Big Ten, powered by Valley View Retirement Community. Of course, Indiana, Penn State today.
Yep.
We have Ohio State at Purdue at 1 o'clock in West Lafayette. Maryland at Rutgers in Piscataway. Oregon versus Iowa in Iowa City at 3:30. That's a big one there. Washington versus Wisconsin with Luke Fickell returning for next season, apparently, per the Washington AD or Wisconsin AD.
Okay.
Nebraska at UCLA at 9 o'clock. And then yesterday, USC beats Northwestern 38-17, including using their backup quarterback as the punter and then having him throw a football, because that happened last night at some point as well.
Oh, wow.
The question is, who's going to throw a football for Penn State today? Because the availability report is out, Frank.
It's
and
not great.
You and I are not listed on it, so we are eligible, I guess.
Yeah, this is also a part of the narrative for this season. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, take a look at the difference between Indiana's availability report and Penn State's. Now, part of the problem is like Penn State is not listing people as out
for the season.
Out for the season, and that's a bit of a problem. But what we have here, the biggest one today is Chaz Coleman's out.
Chaz Coleman's out. Jackson Smolik's out.
Jackson Smolik is out. No one's surprised by that. Trying to look through here, Beckham Kritza is questionable. He was sick earlier in the week, says Terry Smith. But, like, Drew Aller and Max Granville and Tony Rojas are out and not out for the season. So, like, questionable versus definitely not going to play. Like, I don't know how to feel about these things anymore.
The Indiana side of things, though, is the more interesting piece here. So out for the game, Caden Turner, Brendan Frankie, Drew Evans are out. Drew Evans is, I believe, one of their offensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he's one of the starters. I think he's the left guard.
Yes. And then on the wide receiver front, Elijah Surratt, one of their receivers, is questionable. He has a hamstring injury, and as anyone has hurt their hamstring, I tore my hamstring, and it is not an easy thing to recover from because you lose explosivity. And that's a whole piece of being a receiver, is being at least a little explosive.
Yeah, and also it's a slow injury to heal from. There's not anything corrective you can do about a hamstring that you've pulled. So he pulled a hamstring. He went out after 4 plays last week. I think they were trying to get him just to kind of block.
Yeah.
But you're right, like your hamstring and part of your posterior chain is all connected, and there's not like you can't play receiver with a hamstring.
No.
So even if he does play, he's going to be a very limited participant in terms of his impact on the game. That's not as big of a deal to me from their receiving core as Omar Cooper Jr., who is a guy that is what makes their RPO offense so absolutely dangerous. I wrote about him this week. I talked about him this week. He's he's number 3. He's their slot receiver. As we all try to find that comparison out there, right, to the next guy, X, Y, or Z at a position, he's got a little Deebo Samuel to him.
Yeah.
He's a physical dude. He's 6 feet tall. He runs through contact. And they like to create one-on-one opportunities for him to catch the ball, break a tackle, and get an explosive play. They don't throw the ball down the field all that much. They throw to him and let him get yards after the catch. It's the way you should run an RPO offense.
Yes.
It's the way that you would hope your offense is running RPOs. That or Texas, the way they throw them down the field more aggressively. The dink and dunk stuff is kind of like, again, a cheat when you don't have a functioning offense. This is using an RPO as an aggressive tactic, and that is still very much in play. And with the way Penn State's corners and safeties have been tackling, it's a danger this week that if those explosive plays happen, that's where the blowout starts.
So the question is, who's on Cooper? Is it going to be, I'm assuming, Zion Tracy, Kenny Wosley, that corner, the nickel? Are they going to be?
It happens by alignment. So if he's the outside corner, it'll be A.J. Harris or one of the other two.
Okay.
If he's in the slot, it's going to be Zion Tracy or Kenny Wosley. And then
your safety has to make a tackle. And we've seen Zakee Wheatley make
Yeah.
tackles, and then everybody else, it's kind of been – it's been a little bit of a dodgy situation. I'm going to go dodgy because I am dressed like I'm from 1850s
You are,
London.
yeah.
So I might as well say a bit dodgy, isn't it? A bit dodgy. The tackling's a bit shoddy.
I have no words for you, Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, sir,
I'm
here on the
sorry.
show.
Like, we're at the end of the season here, guys, and I'm trying to, hey, let's tap dance about how entertaining this isn't going to be today.
I will say, we got asked.
It's rough.
We were asked about why we were wearing so many layers today. It's cold, and we're just existing.
We're in the well, you are not wearing that many layers. You're wearing you're wearing a pullover. We're in the shadows. We are. We don't get the sun bonus.
Nope.
And the sun is out again today. So here's the other thing: is I'm going to put this up. It is a late arriving crowd, so it's not going to be an empty Beaver Stadium. Like, there are people here now. There is more of a game day atmosphere. We're just under 2 hours until kick, and it's starting to look like a game day. So I do think it's going to be a good crowd. Penn State isn't. I don't think this is going to be something that Penn State fans are going to be ashamed of to watch on TV.
No.
But I don't think we're going to get 107,000.
No, and the question is going to be, what does the crowd look like inside the stadium? And that is the question that has been asked a lot this week, is what does it look like? Because for those wondering at home, Penn State hasn't played here. This is Ethan Ruckenmeyer's third game starting, and this is going to be his first game in Beaver Stadium starting at quarterback.
Yeah.
And along with that, this is Terry Smith's first game starting as the interim head coach, at least, in Beaver Stadium. So there's going to be a new intro with Ethan Ruckenmeyer, a new intro with Terry Smith. That's gonna be really interesting to see how the fans react, because usually Drew Allar gets the biggest cheer. James Franklin, as the year progressed, a little more booze in there, but usually loud atmosphere in there.
Yeah.
So what does it look like when they're right out? I guess is the biggest cheer is going to be Katron Allen.
I think so. This is what I'm curious about: is like the atmosphere around the team and around Terry Smith, a Penn State alum.
Yeah.
And a guy that I think personality-wise fans feel more comfortable with than James Franklin, who is constantly trying, at all times, was trying to sell the program. You know, and I do want to empathize with that, like, just be a football coach. Like, he was. Yeah. This is the thing: is like, you don't get a lot of James Franklin when there's a camera on, when he isn't being the statesman James Franklin.
Yeah.
But, like, he was a football coach when you were around practice, right? He was a football coach when he needed to be a football coach, and he was a politician when he was on camera. And Terry Smith is just always a football coach.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I think made James Franklin less attractive to fans. It was that of, like, he's constantly trying to sell the program. And I think, like, he was genuinely trying to do his absolute best to put them in a position of strength. But I do understand why that can be fatiguing. And so I wonder what the tolerance for mistakes is today without James. Was it all James Franklin? Was it Penn State fans were just tired of James Franklin and literally his face?
So
is Terry Smith and I'm not trying to be insulting. Like, literally, his face is all that a lot of people know of James Franklin. They've never met him. They just see him on the sidelines, right? You get to see him for 45 seconds every Saturday, and that's like your interaction with him. Unless you watch the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, and you got 45 minutes of him talking on our press conferences, which tens of thousands of people do watch.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as we talked about this early in the season, of like the other option beyond booing is to support a team that's struggling and try and help them be better.
Give
and
them
like,
energy.
Give them support and energy to get over the hump against a very good team, where there was like this kind of demand from the fans. Is that still there? Like, is that because I don't feel it anymore. I do not feel that negativity that was around the program in September at this point. Now I feel despair. I feel an apathy.
Yes.
I don't necessarily feel the resentment we did before. So maybe this is a more friendly home crowd, which they haven't had in a while.
They have not. And that's where I guess my big question is, because a lot of the times when there is a struggling program or a struggling team, you see it in the crowds in different stadiums where the fan attendance is low and fans aren't really getting into it, and there's just no cheers. There's maybe some boos, but it's just kind of bland. Yeah. And the question is, what does it look like in Happy Valley? Because, of course, Penn State fans are a different breed to a lot of fan bases where, like, they're still coming out and supporting the team. The question is, are they doing it because they're still angry and upset, or are they doing it because, truthfully, they just want to see some football and see some good football played?
Yeah.
And as we discussed kind of already, good football is something we may not see today from this Penn State team on either side of the ball, because no one knows what's going to happen for this Penn State team. We know Indiana's going to come out and play really well because they're number 2 in the nation.
Yeah.
Fernando Mendoza is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation
We haven't
so far
even
this
talked
year.
about their quarterback,
No.
who's really good.
Mendoza's apparently currently projected to go number 1 at the Saints this year, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he's a quarterback. He exists, and he's playing really well. He's a Heisman candidate, so like he's playing really well.
Yeah.
And they've got a great team, a great defense, great offense, all this stuff. And like Penn State's a team that now just exists. And again, all bets are off in this Penn State team. There is no more expectations for them.
Yeah.
Like they're under 500. They have to win 3 of the next 4 games to get to 500, get to a bowl game. So like, could they? Sure. They could totally win 3 more games. They could also lose the next 4 games. We don't know.
They could go winless in conference play. And this is something I do want to say. We've been talking about the crowd today. We've been talking about this was not an early arriving crowd. This was not a crowd that wanted to get up for this game. But as you and I have both said, and I don't want to make this about us, but we know, and I think Penn State fans who have other loves, like there's an overlap with Pirates baseball, right? There's an overlap with
Steelers football.
Steelers have been classically good for a very long time.
Of course.
But like there are bad teams that have great fan bases.
Yeah.
And I just want to give Penn State fans credit where like they've showed up today, and there's something to say about culture that I want to just talk about for a second, because coming to a Penn State football game isn't about the football. It's about your family, your friends, the tradition of coming out and tailgating in a cow pasture. Like, I want to. That is a special thing that Penn State has, of like the rural, open land part of this, where it's like you're not tailgating in a parking lot next to some random building downtown in a city. You are having to make a choice to come out here and tailgate in God's green country in the middle of central Pennsylvania, where it's not super easy to get here.
No.
And it's a noon game, which means to tailgate, you need to get here at 10 o'clock to get 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe they get into the game. Maybe they don't get into the game. But Penn State fans are here. And
They are.
that culture and that tradition, if it were raining, we might have a different conversation. Like if it were snowing today, maybe we have a different conversation. But the fact that Penn State fans wanted to be here today with a 3-5 team, I think shows what the spirit of the game day atmosphere at Penn State is, which is a resilient thing. Like, again, like I don't want to say too much about this, but like there are some similarities to the Buffalo Bills where they were terrible for a decade, but everyone loved tailgating, and you just got into breaking tables and you know, doing shenanigans in the parking lot, and then you go into the game and whatever happened. Penn State fans are here, and they're having a good time. I want just like I didn't know if that was going to happen. I didn't know if that was going to. The online community is unhappy. But I think the
general fan base
is here to have a good time today, and I respect that. I respect that.
You know, it's the thing. We're all here for a good time, not a long time. And coming up in a few moments, when we get back from the break here on 99.5, 107.5, the Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, we're going to get into our predictions, because that's the thing we have to do, is predict this game. So we're going to get into it coming up here on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander, Family Dealerships.
So, Ryan, give me your score prediction. Tell me how you think this plays out.
38-14. Like I said, I could see maybe a 17-14, 21-14 first half. I could see something similar to what we saw last week. But Penn State's also been outscored, 4 consecutive games in the second half. Like, it's a team right now that just, I don't know how much fight there really is, to be honest. And I know, that's not what's coming out of Lash, but what my eyes tell me on the field the last couple of weeks is that there's not a ton of motivation to really go after it and get it. And that's sad. That stinks. I don't like seeing that, because obviously I thought that this was a locker room built on a lot of those things. And right now I don't see it with my eyes. So to me, if Penn State can get some lucky bounces to go their way, maybe they can stay in the first half. But do you trust Grunkmeyer to throw it down the field, to be aggressive, to do all those things? He's averaged just 119 yards passing through the first 2 games. And I get it. They haven't really let him try to turn loose. But I think if you're doing that against Indiana, you're asking for it to some degree. So 38-14, we'll see where this goes. But, they're going to need some bounces to go their way, no doubt.
Fitz, what do you think how this game plays out? What's your final score?
You made a good point there, and I know we were talking about this earlier about the for lack of a better term, blown coverages, whether it's blown coverages or it's just, we don't think this guy is going to make the third read and actually get down the field because we're putting pressure on him. I mean, you're kind of looking at splitting hairs right there. But Penn State's going to need to hit them, which means Penn State's going to need to throw them, and not confident that that's going to happen. I've got Indiana winning 48-20. I've got more points in this one. Like I said, I think Indiana's going to try and score a lot of points. Not that that's not the not that that's not the goal for most programs, but Indiana, I think, is doing it. Speaking of which, I'm stuck on this conversation with Terry Smith last night because I just keep coming back to the entire setup of this offense. I assume you asked about the similarities to Manny Diaz's defense. Yep. You talked about them causing havoc and getting pressure. And Terry is talking about first down, second down. And I'm a big down and distance guy, and I'm totally rethinking that after watching Penn State this year, because it almost seems like, and Terry said, it's tough to call plays that way. We've got to get positive yards. We've got to get 4 or 5 yards on first down. And we have a couple downs to chip away at the first down. That to me is just mind-blowing when you talk about the goal of this game is to score points, not to get first downs. And you can see that every drive that Penn State does is they are going for that yellow line that does not exist in real life, but it's out there. And that is the goal, to get to that yellow line. And then when they get to that yellow line,
put yourself in a box.
Yeah, it is in a very small shoebox.
It is November 8th. It is a chilly day. It is 10:30 in the morning. Kyle Leff with Thomas Frank Carr here on 99.5.
I feel all right. Again,
we're warm. We're trying to do it.
I dressed for the weather.
You did.
I know that we've done this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I will be a longshoreman, and then I will be an Eskimo for the next home game.
You are, and I appreciate it. And we are here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And it is now time to get into our predictions here on the show, and our predictions are brought to you by Metzler Forest Products Landscape Center. T. Frank, last week you were 3 points off from nailing it.
Yeah.
You were very close to nailing the Penn State versus Ohio State score. What you got for us this week, prediction-wise?
So I'm gonna do the thing because we've got our camera out here. So I'm just gonna start with it. I don't think Penn State can score a touchdown in this game. I thought they could score a touchdown last week. I'm going 42-9. Because this defense, like I talked about, they create chaos, they shepherd the ball into where they want, and then they take it away from you. There's going to be a lot of 3 and outs. There's going to be a lot of negative plays, and I don't think Penn State has the stomach to brave what they need to do to get the ball out of that situation, because I don't think they trust their quarterback. I'd like to see them do that. I'd like to see if they get explosive plays, they're able to get over the top of all of that shenanigans, they can score 21 points in this game. On the other side, I don't know how they're going to stop this RPO offense. I don't think that they're going to be able to slow down a team that has shown they can break tackles and they can play with more fortitude and discipline than the defense has shown this year. And I don't believe they're going to stop the run. Even if they show improvement this week, they're not going to show the improvement they need to make it a ball game. But there is a path for it to happen today. There is a path for them to be in this game late into the third.
There is a real chance this becomes a train wreck and just gets really bad. As we've kind of hinted at, like, Ethan Rugmeyer's the quarterback, but they're one hit away from not having him at quarterback and not having a quarterback on the team that's playing, because Beckham Kritza could be healthy. He was sick this week, so, like, who knows if he's going to be able to play. So,
and what happens if he does play? Like that's almost as worse as having Liam Clifford at this point.
It is. So for me, prediction-wise here, I'm sitting. Last week, I was a little bit off. I went a little high on the Ohio State side. I'm not feeling too far off on this one, though. I think 45 for Indiana and 10 for Penn State. I think they get a touchdown.
Okay.
But it feels more like they're going to score at some point just because they're going to score.
You're optimistic because they get. I said they get 3 scoring drives.
Yes.
You say they only get 2.
But they get a touchdown.
But they get a touchdown.
So but we're 1 point off, T. Frank, on the exact same number for Penn State. The difference is the Indiana score.
Yeah.
I just see this as this defense is going to be like rocked all night, or rocked all day, I guess, rocked all noon by this Indiana offense who was really good, and Penn State defense, and And their offense, we just don't know. I think there'll be a touchdown in there somewhere. The question is, what is it?
Yeah.
We do not know. But the crowd is shuffling on in. There's a lot of Indiana fans here, T. Frank, and you and I are here live out to the Bryce Jordan Center. We have been all day long. We're going to toss it over to Steve Jones, Jack Ham coming on up. We'll see you next week at the Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center for Penn State versus Michigan. We're going to be live at 12:30 for that one. For myself, for T. Frank here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander and Family Dealerships. We will see you back here next week, hopefully with the team that wins the game.